Hello, ladies and folks. I dug the oldest piece of hardware I could find out of a drawer, and I am trying to install Python on it and VS Code. So in order to get Python on it, I went to python.org. I'm going into downloads, and I'm going to hit download the latest version. You can certainly download Python a different way. You can check whether you already have Python on your computer beforehand. I'm going to show you how to confirm that it installed later. So when we get to that step, I'll mention how to check whether you already had Python installed. It is not going to hurt you to update the version. So it's asking me whether I want to run this. I'm just going to hit run. Do make sure you get that from python.org or an Anaconda distro or something. And now I'm just kind of waiting because this piece of hardware is mega slow. And then the thing that you need to be absolutely certain to do is click this add Python to path. And it doesn't really matter what this version is specifically. That's going to change some little tiny things, but as long as you make sure to add it to the path, that's what you're going to need to do. And then hit install. And you could customize it if you wanted to, but there's probably not a point. Now it's going to pop up and ask me whether I really intended to do that, and I did. It should also be noted that this machine is running a super old version of Windows, so things are a little funky. I'm going to pause this recording while this thing installs, and I'll catch back up after it installs. Okay, so I got Python downloaded, and now I just want to end installed. It wouldn't let me launch the recorder when the install finished, so you didn't get to see me press OK, but whatever. Now I just want to confirm that it's installed, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to hold down Shift and right-click into any Windows Explorer window at all, and then I'm going to hit. I really would prefer to hit Open PowerShell window here, but I'm going to hit Open Command window here because this version of Windows is super old. And all I need to do is type Python and hit enter and see that I'm getting a Python 3.8.3 and it's switched to having these little guys instead of having a single one. This means that I'm in Python mode, so I can type Python commands in here now. And some of the easiest Python commands are things like math. And it'll just put the output in here. We're not going to ever really use this mode, but it exists. Okay, so on to the next thing. The next thing is going to be that I'm going to install VS Code. So I just did a quick Google search for VS Code, and then I'm looking for Visual Studio Code, so I'm going to hit download there. If you're following along in the Learn Python the Hard Way book, the author Zed suggests using Atom. It doesn't matter at all. Any of the editors are fine. I'm going to use VS Code because it has a couple features I want, but it's not particularly different. So I've started the downloader. It's going to take just a second, which I feel like I should learn to hum hold music or whatever. Okay, so then we're going to launch the installer, and we're going to hit run. And then this is probably going to take just a second. Obviously, we're going to accept an agreement because we have to, and we're going to install it in just default places. We're going to add to path with this, and I'm going to create a desktop icon just so I can find this thing later. Okay, and then we're installing this, and what this thing is going to do is this is going to let us make and change Python files, and then Python is going to let us run Python files. So they're kind of two sides of this process. So there's an editor where you type code, and then a kind of back-end thing that executes the code. And so we installed the back-end thing first, and now we're installing the typing part of it. There are a myriad of the typing part of this things, and really it doesn't matter so much which one you pick. I like VS Code. That might or might not change as time goes on, but for right now, that's my kind of default go-to. Okay, so I've done this install. I'm going to hit finish. Eventually here I'll get a VS Code window launched. Okay, here we go. I told you this computer was super slow, right? This is like 10-year-old piece of hardware. Okay, so I think we don't need to send Microsoft our data. Okay, so I have this thing, right? And what I want to do is I want to just test this out. So I'm going to hit File, New File. That's going to give me a new file, and I'm just going to type print, some parentheses, and then inside the parentheses, I'm going to type hello. This is going to be my very first Python program, and it's really simple. All it's going to do is print out the word hello. And then I need to save this thing, so I'm going to do File, Save As, and we're going to take forever. And I'm going to do something like this. In my documents library, I'm going to create a new folder. Oops, come on. And I'm going to call this folder week 1. Obviously, you guys can name this kind of whatever the heck you want. I'm not going to ever work on this computer again, so I'm just kind of dumping this in here. And then I just need to name it something. So I'm going to name it test.py. And then in here, I'm going to go up and tell this to be an all files type. This will get a little bit easier as things go on, but it's just kind of my first flow. So then I'm going to hit save in there. And then it's going to tell me, and this is why I like VS Code, because it gives me a little bit of recommendation. It's going to tell me the Python extension is recommended, and you definitely want the Python extension. What that's going to do is that's going to color code this little piece of file here, so I can tell what's what, which is going to help me debugging immensely. And then we're going to kind of give this thing a second to install. I'm going to pause the video while it does that. Okay, so it finished installing my Python extension. And so what that's going to let me do is run things. And now it's saying some stuff, right? So I don't know what that came from. This thing's telling me there's no Python interpreter, so I'm just going to hit select. And this is going to then populate with all the Python versions that are on your computer. I'm going to use the one I just installed, because that's really my only choice here. And then I am going to install the linter when it asks about that. And then, okay, and then I want to let it finish installing this linter, which is going to take a second. A linter is just a kind of helpful formatting tool. So it's not going to actually do anything for us except to just highlight little bits and bobs of code that are kind of badly placed. So it should now be ready for me to run my piece of code. So up here, I'm going to find this little run button. I'm going to hit run, and I'm going to see that it says it's using Python to run this folder, this file path, which ends with my test.py file, and then it's going to do that little bit. So it's printing hello. And then I just want to, I don't know, maybe confirm that that's changing. So I'm just going to do add another line just to ask whether this is working or not. And then I'm going to hit run again, and then I'll see both my printed out lines. So this is just getting Python running at all. I would recommend that you spend a second with that file path and make a folder that has your classwork in it, and then organize it by either week of class or topic or something like that. And then this is the last you'll see me work on this computer. So don't be surprised if things change a little bit. Don't be surprised if your install looks a little bit different than mine. I'm making this video what is this, May of 2020. So it's really, really possible that things will change by the time you watch this. Don't be too concerned with things looking exactly right. What you're going to need, the bottom line, is you need Python, you need an editor. I really recommend the VS Code. And then you're going to need to make sure that you install the extension and the linter if you're using VS Code. And if the linter has some kind of problem, don't sweat that too much, but the extension itself is crucial.